Good morning, or perhaps I should say good night. This may be the final curtain. It's really distressing, a mournful witness to the quiet euthanasia Britain's once great movie industry, assisted, it must be said, by the criminally apathetic Department of Culture, Media and Sport, a department whose name promises cultural stewardship, but whose record over the last government and over this government resembles an ejection seat for third-rate politicians on their way to or from irrelevance. Jeremy Hunt, Matt Hancock, Nadine Dorris, and so on. I forget the names of the people who are there at the moment. But let's begin with Donald Trump, who has just announced a 100% tariff on all foreign-made films. In what he calls an effort to save dying Hollywood, his justification that subsidized international production constitutes both a concerted effort and a national security threat. As though New Zealand's sheep-filled hills whisper subversion into the minds of American audiences, as though Lord of the Rings were a North Korean attack. But as mad as this sounds, it's terrifyingly real, and it's not a bilateral punch, it's a global domino. The US president has just opened the door to cultural protectionism, one that could destroy the 5.6 billion British film and TV production industry, which has just posted its strongest year post-pandemic. Already shares in Disney, Paramount and Warner Brothers have plunged. Industry insiders are scrambling. Australia and New Zealand are making noise. Meanwhile, where is the UK response? Silence, a silence that thunders because of the inadequacy of the DCMS. And that brings me to the DCMS, the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and digital. Now, I don't enjoy personal attacks, but I'm forced to observe that 14 or 15 ministers in the last 15 years have occupied that post like tourists in a museum they neither understand nor care to preserve. And they arrive, they flash a grin, they cut a ribbon at a theatre somewhere in Oxfordshire and promptly vanish into the Cabinet Office, the Home Office, or the abyss. And our cultural policy has been led by a parade of mediocrities, each treating the department as a waiting room for more serious ministries. And as a result, the arts budget is trimmed, freelancers are forgotten, the creative industries are expected to clap politely while begging for scraps. No strategic film defence plan, no lobbying in Washington, not even a statement. And to this, the drag factor of Brexit, and you get a perfect storm. Bibby Foreign Exchange has just reported that 55% of British SMEs trading abroad cite Brexit as a key ongoing obstacle, second only to inflation, and that includes post-production houses, VFX teams, independent studios, all squeezed between European trade friction and a government too distracted by domestic squabbles to secure reciprocal protections for our cultural exports. So yes, Hollywood may be imploding under its own weight, but the British film industry, hitherto its saviour, is now shackled by incompetence at home and tariffs abroad from the people who are there to save it. Certainly not from the creatives, who are every bit as good today as they were yesterday, in fact better. The consequences are stark. If these tariffs are upheld, British-made films and series will be priced out of the US market. That's not just lost revenue, that's lost prestige. That's lost influence, lost voice. That's Game of Thrones gone. Freelancers, editors, gaffers, sound engineers, already reeling from the pandemic and AI disruption, will be forced out. Regional studios in Wales, Scotland, the North East, many of which have underpinned the film boom for the last decade, will close. This isn't a minor disruption, this is the potential collapse of a cultural ecosystem. And if you think I exaggerate, consider the majority of recent Marvel films. House of the Dragon, Barbie, Wonka, were all made here. If they go, so does everything else. So what must be done? First, the DCMS needs to wake up and immediately begin bilateral discussions with the US trade representative to exempt British productions from the tariff game. Second, we need a national film defence strategy, just as we need to protect steel, defence and energy. The cultural economy is a national asset, not a Netflix afterthought. Third, tax incentives need to be ring-fenced and enhanced, particularly in the regions. Our competitive edge is already waning. If we don't act, we'll lose what little remains. Finally, we must demand accountability from the DCMS. No more musical chairs, no more invisible ministers. This is not a dress rehearsal, it's closing night. And in the words of Orson Welles, the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. But in this case, the enemy of British films is the absence of leadership. Trump is playing to the crowd. Our ministers, by contrast, aren't even on stage. So let me say this. Either DCMS steps up and does something, or we in the creative industries must take our case to number 10 directly before the final credits roll on Britain's film industry and television industry, on our creative forces.